The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Tech Talk on Building Energy Monitoring and Associated Data Analytics. My name is Sherry Adams, and I will be the moderator for today's session. Please note that throughout the Tech Talk, all phone lines will be muted. This will minimize any background noise or feedback that could distract from the presentation. When you first joined the Tech Talk, an attendee control panel appeared on the right side of your desktop. On the left side of this control panel is a small tab with an arrow icon at the top. Pressing this icon allows you to minimize and maximize the control panel. When maximized, you can use the control panel to submit questions. We'll be gathering your questions throughout the Tech Talk, and we'll leave a little time at the end for Q&A. If your presentation is related to a particular slide, please include the number on the slide in your question. A PDF of the slides from this presentation will be sent electronically to all those who registered for today's Tech Talk, and we will also be recording this presentation, and it will be available on our website under the resource section. The password to access the Tech Talk will be emailed to all members after the presentation. Today's presenter is John Bell. John is an award-winning building commissioning professional with 15 years of building performance and functional testing experience. Through hundreds of projects across diverse sectors and industries, from data centers, laboratories, and power generation to educational institutions and commercial facilities. John is an active contributor to the broader building commissioning community, delivering talks to strengthen the field and its offerings. He is also a BCA board member of the Eastern Canada chapter. So John, I will pass this over to you.
Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon to folks on the East, and good morning to the folks on the West. As outlined, today we're going to be discussing building energy monitoring and associated data analytics, more specifically going through existing building commissioning with analytics. So let's get started. So the agenda for today, we're going to go through some typical EBCX or existing building commissioning opportunities. Okay. We're going to go through the existing building commissioning process, EBCX process, EBCX with building analytics, and how we're going to separate both of those, and of course some ideas on how to build a scope of work or what that means in including analytics on your project. Ongoing commissioning with analytics, right? With analytics, now this provides us additional opportunities. And then a case study, okay? So commissioning for existing buildings. The way I look at existing building commissioning is a lot like a tune-up on a car, right? Over time, things need, of course, maintenance, just like buildings, and those opportunities, of course, allow for buildings to drift over time. So with your car, just like any building, there are going to be instances in which systems do not operate as per intent, as per what the design team or what the architect or anybody in the project team wanted. In this particular opportunity, existing building commissioning gives us that role to provide some of that feedback to the team, to the operations team, to the owner, whomever it might be, to allow that system to be more efficient, to perform to its fullest. Okay, so when we start going through some of those typical opportunities, these are some of the photographs that we, of course, use to outline to our clients or to anybody within the industry as to, obviously, those, and we've seen these, right? Instances in which we know things aren't working properly, right? So this is clearly a photograph of an outside air damper which is tied open, right? Things happen. If it's going to be temporary, that's fine. This might be okay for a Tuesday, but if this is left that way, then clearly this is incorrect. Right. So for a rooftop unit, right, we commission the unit, or at least we go through and verify to make sure that the outside air damper does fully close, right? When we have brand new equipment, this is the expectation that we have. And we still see those instances. So on, used, 10, 15-year-old equipment, to see this happen is not uncommon, but to ensure that, of course, you have that full efficiency or the full performance, you want to see, of course, these systems work the way they're supposed to. All right, so this is a photograph I took of a few weeks ago. condensing unit, right? We walked in, performed some of our scope, and seen that, of course, this condensing unit that's, I think, around 20 tons was about 50% clogged. Obviously, the efficiency of this unit is going to be suspect and clearly not going to be operating at its fullest. Okay, here's a screenshot of air handling unit. This is of an older setup, older, hot and cold deck arrangement. But we can notice immediately just by going through our typical process, we do the, review of the site, installation review, look at the equipment, monitor how things are, or at least visually investigate how things are operating. And then of course, go through the automation system if it has one, right? So we can see things aren't quite lining up. We know immediately, without even using any test equipment, that the information that we're seeing on the BAS is incorrect, right? Return air temperature does not match the mixed air temperature or in relation to the outside air temperature that we had at a specific time. Return CO2 at 456 ppm, clearly incorrect during the day. This was, I believe, around 11 a.m. The space was occupied. So not only is that a 456 number just incorrect, it's off by close to a magnitude of 200%. Okay, so on our normal opportunities, these are the things as professionals that we look at, all of us, of course, on this webinar, and these are the low-hanging fruit. Okay, boiler plant inefficiencies. We could look at some trending. If it's got the capability, you could kind of go back in time, see whether or not there are opportunities. What is the reset strategy like? Can we find some improvements? And of course, on this slide, some work that I did a few months back in making some fine-tuned PID adjustments allowed for some efficiencies. Okay. Also, on typical EBCX projects, you'd look at some trending. If you've got that trending capability, this is just a screenshot of run-of-the-mill system in which you're looking at points, you're looking at the data. Can you make sense of why the system is operating the way it is, right? So you're collecting that information, and this is the normal process. Okay, so if we look at the EBCX process, the traditional process, we'd have our 4 phases, right? We'd have our planning, investigation, implementation phase, and of course, handoff. Now, within each of those phases, we'd have a series of goals, right? So we'd have a series of responsibilities, deliverables. As we pour over this, I'm not going to go through this in extreme detail, but you might only get a scope of work or a budget or a client that's interested in following a certain part of this process. They might want to do the whole thing, including ongoing commissioning. And of course, we'd all be an advocate for that, but that might not be the case for your client. They might have a schedule or a budget that is quite less than what you see here. Okay, so when we look at EBCX with analytics, I think it's important that we kind of go through what building analytics is and how it works. So there's different types of analytics systems out there. I put them into 2 camps. One camp is analytics that provides control, right? The black box technology. There's lots of firms out there that provide that. And then there's, of course, the systems that provide that information through, just the dashboard, right? So this is, detection only, and then of course outline to the energy manager or the owner or whomever it might be as to here are some opportunities, here are some insights that have been captured by just looking at the trend data. Okay, so we first start with an existing automation system. All of those points, all of that data is parked there. It might only be a couple of weeks worth of data. It might be a couple of years, depending on what you're dealing with, or what system that you have, or what what the owner has incorporated within even a new project. So whatever trend logs are available, right? Supply temperature, pressures, statuses of equipment, chillers, boilers, whatever it is, that data, of course, on an automation system is typically rolled over. It's not captured over the long term. Analytics picks up that information, of course, picks up that data, those trend logs, and those TLs are of course sent through, their firewall out to the cloud, analyzed, right? And then back, of course, to the energy manager or the owner that's looking at that data, right? Who has a vested interest in looking at it. So the on-site device requires that information so that, of course, it can be delivered to the dashboard, right? Okay, so EBCX with analytics, right? Here are the 4 big steps, right? So you acquire the data, right? You assess it, okay? You analyze, you can go through predictive analytics or fault detection. There's other methods as well. Prioritize. So go through each of these, provide insights or reporting, right? So if it's items that are urgent or items that affect energy, right? Which is typically what most owners, developers, facility managers are interested in, then of course that information is prioritized. And then of course it's verified, right? Calculate results. Most everyone enjoys or at least prefers looking at this on the financial side, how much has been wasted or how much opportunity there might be on that system. Okay, so going back, here is the traditional EBCX process, right? So this process, as stated, includes the 4 phases and ongoing, right? But as outlined, the client or the owner that you're dealing with may or may not want to go for that full experience. So with analytics, I look at analytics as a tool in the toolbox, and it provides some context to the ownership team and allows for them to choose perhaps, or at least streamline or modernize some of these aspects. So of those, I've highlighted various, it could be more. The ones that I think analytics might be an opportunity for the people on this call to better understand. So in the planning phase, if you're utilizing analytics, then clearly the plan is going to change because the on-site boots on the ground component will change in how you are going to investigate potential opportunities, right? So the plan is going to change. I wouldn't recommend removing, an EBCX meeting or changing the goals. You still want to outline those. You should always benchmark. If it's a developer and owner with multiple buildings, then they're going to have that, or you can use some other tools for that. And you should always interview. Having information from the operations team, the facility manager, is always important. Okay, so into the next phase, investigation. So clearly analytics changes the traditional process on finding opportunities in an existing building. It dramatically changes because there is something that's constantly looking at the data. It's constantly looking at those trend logs, confirming statuses, confirming resets, confirming temperature, control, all of those things. So everything in the building is constantly monitored. And that's something that traditionally we have not been able to do. We look at it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday of the week. We capture our notes. Maybe we have the luxury of having some trend log data to go through, and then we can make an informed decision on the measures that we'd like to implement. But ultimately, analytics provides continuous commissioning, right? Continuous monitoring, right? So with analytics, as stated, testing changes, right? So we might not elect to do, a certain percentage of the terminal units, or we might not select to do testing on anything randomly, right? Obviously, on the FIMs, so facility improvement measures, on those FIMs, that changes. There's going to be additional insight, additional information provided by the analytics that we would just not have previously. Okay, implement. So on the implementation, we would prioritize and implement the facility improvement measures that have been generated through the analytics, and also on site too. I'm not negating the work that's done on site. You still want to perform that and complement both of these. Again, this is a tool in our toolbox. It's not the only tool. You still want, of course, do that boots on the ground work, but it might not be as much as what you would do in the past. Okay, handoff. So O&M manuals, if there are some, then O&M manuals, of course, are critical for the long-term success. Then you would have an opportunity to update those if they are available. But the ongoing commissioning plan, right? So if you're going to leave a plan, then this changes it, because this might actually be a part or the big piece of your ongoing commissioning. You might leave the analytics in place, or the owner might elect to run the analytics for a longer period of time. Okay, lessons learned. Final report, I would keep those, and of course the ongoing, as mentioned. If this is constantly running in the background, right, and there's a dashboard for you to review with with your client, then you can provide that consulting expertise to them on an ongoing basis. All right, so this is just a overview of an air handler, the number of points that are on an air handler, and this conveys the amount of data. I think we all appreciate how much data is available. We don't utilize it nearly to its fullest, but if we look at it, this is just one air handler, right? 30 points at 5 minutes. That's 3.1 million points per year. Right, multiple air handlers, multiple systems. You start getting the gravity at which we're just not fine tuning or wringing that cloth out enough on our buildings. The other side benefit, of course, from crunching the data, right, the analytics, providing it, is they can do some key performance indicators on those problematic systems, right? So in this particular case, there's a target, so anything greater than 75% of the systems need to meet. In this particular case, there's 10 air handlers. Only 4 of them are meeting set point, within that KPI. Okay, and then ultimately we see the top 5 versus the bottom 5, or whatever it might be. It could be any system. And if you're going to target and spend time and effort testing, then I would easily test the bottom or the worst performing units within a building, and not focus on the units that, of course, that are performing well. Ongoing commissioning. Always an advocate for ongoing commissioning. If we're going to prevent that drift, then we all need to, of course, ensure that our clients, owners, developers understand that to prevent drift, a component of that is to, of course, provide ongoing commissioning, right? That could be biannual, it could be monthly, it could be yearly, it doesn't matter. Whatever it might be, the traditional process is clearly going to change with analytics. It might not change the plan or of course, the details of it, but what it will change, of course, is the investigation component. If there is a team of people that are looking at this information, then it's going to be expensive. But with analytics, it could be a fraction of the cost that we might perform ourselves. Okay, so again, there's different types of systems. There's systems that, analytic systems that provide control, and there's ones, of course, that just do the detection and provide that feedback in a dashboard of what you see right here. What I like about systems like this is that there is no control aspect. There's no finger pointing as to the reasons why a system does not operate or a system doesn't work the way it's intended. Everyone just points at the black box and says, well, that's the thing that, of course, failed the system. So there's advantages of going this direction. But looking at potential savings, looking at opportunities, looking at the impact of comfort within a building, the reporting side of analytics can provide this information to the ownership team, the energy manager, whomever it might be, in a much more clear and obviously efficient manner. Okay, so case study. So if we look at a real world example, we've got a large chill water plant. Okay, system profile. We've got 8 1,000 ton chillers. Okay, we got 8 towers, 8 primary pumps, 8 condensing water pumps, and 14 secondaries. Okay, so very large system. Obviously, this is not going to be everywhere, but what we what we looked at, of course, is some of the impacts of running the analytics and the information that was provided within utilizing this system, right? So the chillers weren't staged based on calculated load using outside air temperature or other calculated demand strategies. Chillers running 24/7. Some of the chillers turning off at night, and chillers operating in lead lag sequences. So when we look at the chill water system, what you want to, of course, see is the long-term trending to confirm whether or not the system is operating properly, at least as per sequence of operation. Okay, with analytics, it's looking at this every single point, right, and providing that information back. So there's tons of opportunity, not just in this system, air handlers, all HVAC, electrical, anything that's got a trend, okay? So finding summary, close to 500,000 in annual energy savings predicted. Substantial reduction in system run times will result in less maintenance, okay? And life expectancy, of course, for the equipment will be improved. Okay, so with my experience using analytics, we still need commissioning boots on the ground. It's an important factor. There needs to be somebody specifically with the systems that are, of course, just doing the fault detection side. Commissioning is an integral part in, planning, investigating, implementing, and then turning over not just the systems, but the documentation, training, and whatever it might be to prevent that ongoing drift. Some within the commissioning community might look at analytics as being a competitor of sorts. I don't personally look at it that way. I look at it as in a tool. It's a tool that we can utilize to provide additional benefit to the ownership team. BAS or BMS integrity. It's data in, data out, garbage in, garbage out. If it's not reliable, if the information that you're getting is not reliable, the points that are named are inconsistent, or nobody knows what analog input 9 is, then clearly you're going to have a problem. Or if there's controllers that are going offline, field controllers, or masters, or whatever it might be, then that's clearly going to be a problem in looking at this data. I've had projects in the past of which this has been a concern. Okay, substantial savings opportunities require a budget to implement. So you're not sure what you're going to turn up, right? So when you lift a lot of rocks, you're going to find some of those gems. Now, those gems are going to require a budget to implement. You're not sure what you're going to find, but there needs to be an upfront discussion with the ownership team or client to say, look, we are going to make, through this investigation process or through, this EBCX process, we need to, of course, earmark a certain amount of money so that we can implement some of these. We'll prioritize them, and you guys, of course, make a decision, but ultimately we do want to, of course, implement some of these. Maybe not all of them, but definitely some. And then, of course, last but not least is training. So training for the operations and facility maintenance side is crucial, as stated, to prevent drift. There's nothing worse personally for me, or I'm sure anybody on this webinar, is that you spend a lot of time and effort going through these systems, making some informed, strategies or facility improvement measures, and then see it a year and a half or even earlier than that, just going right back to where it was. So if it's training on the analytics or training about the commissioning, training about ongoing commissioning, training on the systems, right? You could even recommend going with video recorded training for some systems, depending on complexity or depending on your investigation. If you found that the chill water plant was, of course, operating within parameters, but the air handlers, simultaneous heating and cooling, or not hitting set point, that was your big concern, you might elect to spend more time going through those systems, recording it, and making sure that, of course, the owner and the team had every chance for success. Okay. So just to wrap this up, obviously resources, content provided by Copper Tree Building Analytics, and then of course through the BCA as well. Okay, thank you. And if you have any questions, Sherry, please let me know.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate your time and expertise. And it looks like we do have a question that has come in. And just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the question box. But this is a two-part. Who sets up the analytics detection algorithms? And if it's the commissioning provider, how many hours does it take for a typical system?
Yeah, good question. So I don't personally have expertise in setting this up. You would deal with a third party. There's lots of vendors out there for building analytics systems. They come with a standard package, right, of rules that are based on, of course, you know, ASHRAE and lots of other organizations as far as how a system should operate. Those are normal, but they can be customized. So the commissioning provider can customize some of those rules. So when you're looking at whether or not, let's say it's a system that's not currently provided through the analytics, or at least there's not a set of rules there for a one-off system, then of course you can customize those. So if you're looking at time, you need to confirm whether or not you're going to run a system or an analytics that's off the shelf, or maybe bake in some additional time with your analytics provider so that they can provide some of that support as well.
Great. Thank you. It doesn't look like we have any other questions, but I do have just a reminder announcement, and if something comes in while I'm announcing, I'll let you know, John. But just a reminder that our last in-classroom training classes are coming up for the year. So the building enclosure class is this Friday, October 25th in York, Pennsylvania. And then our new construction commissioning and EBCX, existing building commissioning, in San Antonio, Texas in November. So just as a reminder that those will be our last for this year. And it doesn't look like we have any other questions at this time, but if John, if you're open to any others, if people should have any after this call, I could forward them to you.
Thank you.
Great. And on behalf of the BCA, I'd like to thank everyone for participating in today's Tech Talk, and have a great day. Thank you, everyone.